What's up, everybody? Welcome to the podcast. I have a 50.5-inch vertical. This man right here writes all my workouts, and today, hopefully, we can teach you something that you can apply to your training. And ideally, if you like us enough, you go to sign up for our coaching at THPstrength.com if you want to jump higher.
I
Link
heard
is
you
in.
guys. What did you say, Isaiah?
I said link is in the description.
Link is in the description. Yeah, good job on the intro. We don't really prep for that. We usually just press record and just rip it, baby. We did do a little bit of prep today, though. We're going to be talking about programs and how they've changed, or jump training, I guess, and how it's changed over the last maybe even less than 10 years, probably like 8 years, which I do like to think that we played a role in a good way. I think that we helped the information get, what would you call that, filtered, maybe? Like, we basically went in and we were like, look, this is good information, this is bad information, this is true, this is not true. We basically fact checked everything, and not everything, but a lot of stuff. And now we're gonna talk about that. So something that we thought of that was really funny was what are they're called, jump soles? Is that what they're called?
Yeah.
So I don't know if you guys remember this. There was a time whenever you could like put these ugly freaking shoes on your feet, and you used to be able to, like, did it have like an actual workout it gave you, or what was
Yeah, I
the
think it came with a program. I never bought it, but I've heard from the grapevine. Like, I'm pretty sure it came with like a program that you would do these workouts.
did you ever see the Seinfeld thing?
I've heard of that too.
Okay, I'm gonna play it because I actually found it.
Don't play it because I might get demonetized.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right, I won't. But there's a literal famous like skit or scene in Seinfeld where they're like, "What are you?" He's like, "What are you wearing?" They're like, "They're jump shoes. I'm training my vertical leap."
Yeah.
And that is just so funny. So yeah, you would just wear these ugly looking shoes and just do repeat plyos, I think, and then walk around and then wear them all the time. And essentially, the idea was that, I think the logic behind it, at least, is that your Achilles would, or your like lower leg would get stronger, and then you would jump higher. And honestly, for someone that's doing nothing, there's probably some truth to that. For people that actually train like us, it probably will just give us Achilles tendon pain.
Yeah. Isn't
So,
there a research study that came out that they worked?
oh yeah, I mean, they to
I'm
some
pretty sure
degree
you told me. Like,
untrained.
there was like one morning you like brought it up. You're like, look, this study, like they did a program without the shoes and then did a program with the
No
shoes.
way. I'll find it later.
We
That
could
is.
pause it. We could pause it and try to find it.
So Isaiah and I did a very comprehensive meta-analysis looking at exactly 2 studies, one from 1996 and one from 2024. And we found one study that said it did nothing in 8th grade and 9th grade students on the junior high football team. And in the other study, they found that for women, it helped. Now, mind you, these are probably very low grade studies. Like, we're talking like some random journal that was started so that like some university could make a few bucks on the side, and then published it and submitted it to Google Scholar so people like us could read it. But might be something to it for, university women. I'm not gonna let the cart get before the horse here and make some claims that aren't substantiated, because it turns out that if you get you some jump soles,
It might work.
you might jump higher. It might work. Might be something to it. Makes sense.
All right. So there's
So
first
then
actionable thing. We're not recommending it, but feel free to try it and report
I'm
back
gonna
to us
try it
if
and
that
let us
happens.
know. Oh, dude, I had a huge win the other day. Some kid DM'd me and he was like, "Hey, I don't have money right now. Like, I'm a student. I can't afford the training." But because people, I think, don't think I see a lot of the either comments or DMs, but I do. And he basically said that he's been listening to the podcast for the last 9 months, right? And he went from grabbing rim to, like, he sent me his first dunk. And I was like, dude, that's just from listening to the podcast. Like, he doesn't even have the training, which is pretty crazy that he was
I
able to get that good.
would like to take this moment to say a big F you to all the people that say we just ramble
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and
This
that
rambling has purpose.
and that the podcast is too long. We don't care.
Look, dude, we do this for those guys that wake up at 7 a.m. and go crush steel balls for 60 hours a week. Okay. That while they're sitting behind a fucking crane with a headphone in, and they're saying to themselves, "This sucks, but at least I'm learning about jump training today from these two goobers." All right, and they just they just make my day a little bit better, a little less worse. That's I do it for those guys. Okay,
Yeah.
and then those high school kids that are entitled that just want the answer, and just the key. No, bro, I don't do it for you. Those kids that want to grind it out and listen to us yap for 45 minutes every day and enjoy it.
To find the golden nuggets.
To find the golden nuggets, you got to work for it, man. You got to sift through all that talking to find them nuggets.
Or just sign up. Or just sign up for THP.
Or just sign up. I mean, yeah, there's also that. I mean, teach a man to
Matter
fish.
of fact, get the job crushing the steel ball so that you can sign up.
Exactly.
All right. Moving on. Speaking of rambling, let's move on to the next.
Dude, no, I think that was totally appropriate. All right, so the next one that we have is Air Alert. So Air Alert was really, really popular. I think probably like around the same time that the Jump Souls were, and
maybe right after.
Yeah, it's basically a program of like thousands and thousands of plyometric contacts, which, like, to their credit, they're well, first off, they're very low intensity. That's one thing you have to consider. The intensity is like crazy low, but the volumes are like,
ooh.
What is it?
So, fun fact, it was created in 1991, and it was the first program that guaranteed to improve your vertical by 8 to 14 inches in 4 months.
Marketing before marketing, bro.
Wow.
They were a marketing brand, or they just believed it worked that well. Who wrote it? Do we know who wrote it?
It was produced by TMT Sports.
It
featured a lot of. It actually featured a few pro athletes in there. Some exercises that it included: half kneeling to single leg hop, drop squat with posterior arm throw, broad jump to high jump, lateral bounded jump, 180 jump, back leg elevated single leg jump, tuck jumps, and mountain climbers.
Brother, if you do this program, you will get hurt. Like, there are programs that I can say you might get hurt, you might not get hurt, but this one, you will objectively get hurt.
It's crazy. It still gets sales. Like, I'm on Reddit and people are like, anyone try Air Alert? Should I try Air Alert or Vert Shock? Does Air Alert still work?
That's crazy. Like, you will get it,
dude. That's the power of marketing. That's the power of marketing. Because you can say
20 years later,
you can say, I'll increase your vertical by 8 to 12 inches. And remember the stat that we talk about all the time? Half of all people in the world are below average intelligence. Guess who? Yeah, you're going to target the masses, baby. You're going to target when the videos go viral on Instagram and you get all the hate comments. You're targeting those people.
Yeah, the haters that are like, don't know anything. And they're like, oh, but I did Air Alert when I was 16 and now I have a 48-inch vertical off my big toe. The big toe is the key. Anyways, yeah. So I hope that we can squash that nuisance of a program, stomp it out. Okay, but to be fair, if I were like 12, maybe I could survive it. Probably would help me. I think Travis.
It works for the top 0.1% of injury resilient athletes.
Yeah. Yeah. Like Dylan McCarthy.
Yeah, Dylan McCarthy could probably do Air Alert.
I'm giving Dylan, if you're watching this, I'm giving you Air Alert next month, bro.
He basically is doing. You basically wrote Air Alert for him plus weights.
No, what I wrote was infinitely harder. I cannot talk about this program because it is the most. Like, Dylan and I talked, and he was like, "Yeah." So I was like, "I want you to track what you're doing for 2 weeks because I don't know like what you're even doing right now. I don't know what I've heard rumors, I've heard legends of your work, and I've not assessed the accuracy of these claims. So I need to just, what are you doing right now?" So we go through this little experiment, and he tracks everything he does for 2 weeks. So he comes back to me. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is reasonable. Now, mind you, when I say reasonable, we're talking jump sessions like 120 jumps, like just nonsensical amounts of jumping, crazy amounts. And I'm like, okay, so some of the rumors are true. So then I take the information and I write a program based off of what I know. And then he comes back and he says, hey, usually I do all these exercises. Now, mind you, this was a lot. This was no ordinary amount of training. We're talking like I can't even describe to you because it's so much that it would be. Imagine like 3 programs mixed together and
It's
doing
like
everything.
Bulgarian method times twice the volume, but with jumping.
Yeah, and I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. But Dylan's he's an alien, dude. He sends the alien emoji and he is. And so, dude, like he survived
Yeah.
week 1 and 2. I just sent him week 3 yesterday, and we'll see how he does. But after this, I'm gonna unload him and just see what happens. I'm just gonna be like, hey, dude, do like 20% of what you usually do, and then like see what happens.
Friggin' 52.
What if he does? Oh my gosh, that'd be awesome. Yeah, so that is maybe error alert is in his future, just to test out.
So take away from this, don't do plyos every day.
Yeah, yeah, big no. Unless you're
That's
Dylan
what we
McCarthy.
learned from error alert.
Unless you're Dylan McCarthy. All right, so
Yeah.
then I would say like the next kind of not era, but maybe like commonality was just block periodization. People were just like spamming block periodization in crazy quantities. And when I say block periodization, I mean they literally would do only squatting or like powerlifting, like deadlift and squats, only like power exercises, to my understanding. I never did this, so I can't really speak to it too much. I mean, no, I didn't. I never did this. I did Verkhoshansky's training, which was conjugate, not block, by the way. I did some more research, but his daughter released it and like had some different notes I was looking through. I might revisit that another time. And then you did just jumping, I think. Did you ever do this? Like what Steven did? What Steven used to do? Shout out Steven Selly, bro. I miss you, Steven. So how far did you make it before you got hurt into this? You made it through the
I never
strength.
made it out of month 1, bro.
You never made it out. Oh shoot. I gotta make sure. I got another podcast coming up here. I want to just double check.
I'll pause. You want me to pause it?
Yeah.
So unfortunately, we have lost John. He had a very important other podcast that he forgot about. So you get yours truly all by myself. So we were talking about block periodization. This was kind of the next era of jump training that occurred. If you don't know what block periodization is, it's basically when you focus on just one quality at a time at the expense of all other qualities. And when I say qualities, you can work on max strength, power, elasticity, eccentric strength, concentric, starting strength, like all those qualities. And the most traditional way of doing that would be only working on, let's say, squatting and deadlifting, right? Your big compound strength movements. And then from there, you do that for a month. Then the second month, you just do power exercises. So that might be power clean, hang clean. You still squat and deadlift, but you would do percentages that would be considered power. So that would be like doing like 30 to 50% of your max. Move it as quick as you can for 3 reps. Then in month 3, you take all lifting out and you only jump. And that was seen as that's like a super basic way of periodizing training, and it was a huge improvement from the old way of jump training, but it's not as effective as doing a conjugate setup. And what conjugate is when you focus on multiple qualities at the same time, but extra emphasis on one, which is actually how we do things. So an example of that, of a conjugate setup. So I'll bring an example of my workout yesterday. I'm currently doing a high volume type setup of training. So high volume meaning I'm working in that 8 to 12 rep range. I'm focusing on increasing the volume week to week to week. But just because I'm doing volume specifically with squatting doesn't mean I'm going to take away power cleans, right? I'm still going to power clean. I'm still sprinting. So I'm still touching on those qualities. It's at way lower volumes than I normally would do at a more intense training cycle. But what that allows me to do is it allows me to accomplish what I'm trying to accomplish, which is increasing the size of my type 2 muscle fibers, increasing my work capacity, get my tendons stronger and more resilient, but still touching on that power work. So I'm able to maintain pretty good levels of RFD, and I'm not doing it at such a volume that it fatigues me. So what we've seen in research is that that type of training allows you to make bigger improvements over a long run, when compared to a block periodization type of training. Now, some other so the takeaway from that, because I want to always go back to the question, and how does this make me jump higher? How does this help me, right? And what you should take away from that is that you should always try to maintain all qualities in your program. Okay. Now, the last thing that I want to touch on here is the Jump Everyday program. And this was really popular specifically when I was first getting into jump training around 2014. And it's actually still pretty popular. I've talked about jumping every day in posts that I've done. Jumping every day is something that the best jumpers in the world all have in common. So think of any pro dunker, literally any pro dunker, and they all had a period of time where they jumped every single day. Some benefits to that, it is very specific, right? So law of specificity. If you want to get better at something, do that thing more. By jumping every day, you are literally working on the thing that you're trying to improve, and it self intensifies. So as you jump higher and you get better, the jumps become more intense. So it creates a bigger stimulus, and you adapt, and then it repeats all over again. The downsides to it, though, one, you're going to hit a point of diminishing returns. What happens again with those same pro dunkers is it works really well, and then they hit a plateau and they don't improve that much if they continue just jumping every day and not playing around with anything else. Number two is you can get hurt, especially if you do this later on when you have higher outputs. This usually works when you're younger because you're lighter. So the jumps aren't as intense. You're not as fast. Can't produce as much force. And that's the perfect time to be doing that because you can improve your jump technique. If you're trying to become a better dunker, you can improve your dunk technique as well. But if you're doing this later on, you're going to mess yourself up. You're going to get hurt. And those are the two biggest downsides to the Jump Everyday program. Aside from that, that is everything. Oh, and then one last thing that I actually wanted to touch on: running the same program over and over and over and over again. So this commonly happens when you find a good program. Most people that sell programs sell 3-month programs. And even if it's an effective program, what happens is an athlete will do the program for 3 months, get better, and they're like, oh, this was awesome. Now let me do it again. Because it makes logical sense. If something worked, you can just keep doing that thing and it should keep working, right? No, because it doesn't follow one very important law of adaptation, and that's the law of variety. As an organism, you got to think of your body. Don't think of it as you're a person. Think of it as you're an animal in the wild. Your brain is a very old organ. It developed millions of years ago, or not millions of years ago, thousands of years ago, when we were running away from saber-toothed tigers and chasing woolly mammoths and having to survive every single day, right? And we still have that exact same brain. And your brain can't tell the difference between being in the weight room or getting chased by a saber-toothed tiger. All it knows is that there is an environment that is very harsh that it has to create an adaptation for. So when you do a jump program, you're trying to cause that. It's literally like a survival mechanism, right? You're trying to force that adaptation. And what happens is you run that 3-month program, your brain is like, holy crap, we need to create an adaptation. This is very hard. And the adaptations we're going for are ones that will make you jump higher. But then once those adaptations occur, if you're running the same program, there is nothing else to adapt to. You've already adapted to it. So what needs to happen is one, and this is the ways that you can add variety into your training, is one, you need to make the training harder. You can do that by adding more volume. You can do that by adding more intensity, or vice versa. Uh, Technically, you could run the same program, test new maxes. Now you're working at higher maxes, right? And the training is going to be more intense. But even that has a point of diminishing returns. So the second way that we can have variety, or third, if you include volume and intensity as two ways, is by changing the exercises that you're doing. Right. So instead of doing back squat and front squat, you might do back squat with a 3-second pause, and then you might do a Bulgarian split squat, right? And then you run that for however long you're doing that for. Then you might add in leg press and belt squat on the third macro cycle that you're doing. So add variety to your training. Don't just repeat the same program over and over and over and over again. All right. Well, that is 20 minutes, guys. If you like the video, please like the video. And like we mentioned earlier, if you want to sign up for THPstrength.com, we'll coach you to jump higher. You know where to find us. And there's also a bunch of free stuff in the description. And I'll catch you guys tomorrow, hopefully with John. Peace out.